White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in Beijing, where Tuesday he started a 3-day visit. He is the first national security advisor to visit China since Susan Rice in 2016 on behalf of the Obama administration. The goal, says Sullivan, is setting up lines of communication so that both countries don't stumble into a disaster just because of mixed signals.
President Biden has been very clear in his conversations with President Xi that he is committed to managing this important relationship responsibly, that we are working to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict, and that we find ways to work together where our interests align.
Isaac Stone-Fish joins me now. He's the CEO of Strategy Risks, a China-focused research firm. Good to have you here. Thanks for being here. A national security advisor makes a visit. Why is that different than, say, a secretary of state?
This is much more focused on security concerns and the broad structure of the relationship. It's seen perhaps as more negative, a little bit closer to the military than just state, which has more of a diplomatic feeling.
Is the to-do list the same old to-do list? And even if it is, have the priorities switched in recent times?
Yes and no. We have fentanyl, we have reducing the temperature, but we also have, with Biden very much being a lame duck president, the idea that if they want to get something done, they have a very scant period of time to do it. So if he wants to put a historical method down on this, he's able to do that.
Just doing a little fix of the microphone there. If people at home think that we've decided to have this interview in a tin can, we have not. Let me ask you about that window closing because of the election. Does that mean there might be a possibility for some quick action? And would there be an area in which there might be a quick action before the outcome of the election might take place?
There is that possibility. I don't think it'll become public because any quick action will likely be positive towards the U.S.-China relationship, which is very unpopular on both sides of the aisle right now. So if they have a, for lack of a better term, peace in our time type of agreement, the Democrats are going to get hit really hard by that. So there might be some sort of secret agreement that we don't hear about for years, if not longer.
Oh, wow. Let me ask you about electronic vehicles. Up in Canada, there is now a 100%, or they're thinking about imposing, they've announced a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, matching the United States. Why are both the United States and Canada so exercised about Chinese electronic vehicles?
Because they're doing very well in the United States and other global markets, and there's a lot of fears about unfair competition. And fairness in international affairs is a heady concept, but the idea being that there's so much state support in China for electronic vehicles, for battery, for other types of development, and that's harmful to U.S. and Canadian manufacturers, which really can't compete, with the exception of Tesla, which has a massive exposure to China.
And in terms of other tariffs, there's as you mentioned in the political context, there's a kind of a race to keep to talk about tariffs and more pressure on China. Is China responding in any way with respect to the United States in terms of saying, okay, you do this to us, we'll do this to you?
Beijing loves to respond in a non-symmetric way. And so that way they get plausible deniability and they can harass Americans, they can harass American businesses and not necessarily directly tie it to what the U.S. government is doing.
If you were, we've got a presidential election coming here. If you were asking a question of the people who want to be in office next time, the president, what's the most important or interesting question for a president for the next 4 years about China?
Will you go to war with China over Taiwan? And if not, why? And if why?
Yeah. Do you think the Chinese, what's their timeline in terms of pressing that question? Because the Taiwan question's been with us for, my lifetime. Is there something that is going to force this more in the near term?
My biggest fear is that Trump loses in November, says he wins. There's a contested election. There's a perception of chaos in the United States. And Beijing decides that's a great time to go in and invade Taiwan. There's no 2027. They have to invade by this time. We really have so little insight into what's going through Chairman Xi Jinping's mind. So it's possible that he wants to do this tomorrow, weeks, months, years, never. But there's enough heat, there's enough military presence that we have to be ready.
And what does that mean in terms of have to be ready? Well, I'll leave it at that. What does that mean in terms of having to be ready? And because that seems to lead to a whole different set of questions for the next presidential candidates.
There's major economic implications, but the real issue is A, Americans and American troops in Taiwan, B, TSMC, semiconductors, but C, do Americans want to live in the world's most powerful country, or do they want to yield that to China? And if they're comfortable being the second most powerful country in the world, then China can take Taiwan and the US can remove itself from Asia. And if they're not, this is where this goes to roost.
Well, you've upped the stakes pretty considerably there. Isaac Stonefish, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.